our Virat Sangam show today though a Tuesday because we had to postpone the last Sunday program because of the technical glitches on the internet. We are having the 76th episode today on Tuesday at 8 p.m. We had promised that we will be discussing the two remaining topics, that is the agricultural bills which has been just been approved in Parliament, and also the importance of Maldives neighborhood. So with these two topics, we will be discussing with Dr. Swamy words of wisdom. So with this, as I mentioned last time, we did have 25 minutes of our last show on Sunday, words of wisdom on the issue of Israel, improvement of relations in the Gulf and the Middle East and the Islamic countries there. And only when we went to this background of the agricultural bill, we had these technical glitches. So with this, I would request Dr. Swamy to please tell us the background of the agricultural bills and what is the way forward, and also discuss about Maldives' role in India's neighborhood. With this, I thank our host, my co-host Ramesh Swamy and Arvind Chaturvedi for their cooperation, and I also thank our technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Rakesh Gaddi from Bangalore, Tejas from Pune, Ishwar Iyer from Navi Mumbai, Vishal Mehta from Mumbai, and Swaminathan from Chennai for their background support for putting out this show every Sunday and today on a weekday, that is Tuesday, because of our last Sunday's glitches in the internet. With this, I request Dr. Swamy to please give us a background of the agricultural bills which have been passed in Parliament and the background.
See, before we go, I think everybody else should go on mute.
Yeah.
Arvindji, please go on mute. Audio mute. Yeah, Dr. Swamy, you can proceed, Dr. Swamy.
Well, there are three bills that were introduced. They had already, had taken effect because an ordinance was issued for them. And under the Constitution, an ordinance cannot be for more than 6 months without being presented to Parliament. So it was well within time, so it came up for hearing. Now all three have been passed under very circumstances, but that's another matter. It was the end. But these three are basically extremely good. Very sophisticated reforms, and I would say it's the first time since 2014 that a reform so well thought out, well structured, or such a large sector has been introduced by the Narendra Modi government. I hope this continues and we have more reforms. I think labor reforms are also now due, and so on. But the reforms is a very important part of our agenda, and more of this would be very good. Before I go into the merits of these acts, these three acts, and what do they stand for, let me give you a brief background why I have been in VHS meetings, in my books, this latest book on my reset. I have dealt whole pages and pages to agriculture because of the importance of agriculture. We were one of the biggest producers of agricultural products for centuries. People used to come from other parts of the world to buy our produce. And even from the United States, as far back as 1636, from the state of Massachusetts, ships used to come here to buy our spices, our special vegetables, which they used ice to protect them till they don't decay. So we had that kind of tradition. In 1857 onwards, the British, who had taken over direct rule in India, not through the East India Company, but direct rule after the defeat of Rani Jhansi in what Savarkar appropriately calls the First War of Independence. Rani Jhansi was not only from Jhansi, she represented the whole of India. Even in Vellore, there was an uprising. There were uprising in various parts of India. And all had accepted Rani Jhansi as the leader. And that failed for a variety of silly reasons. After all, we had fought the Mughals for 600 years. There's a lot of fatigue. For example, the Marathas who defeated Aurangzeb's combined army in Pune in 1795, the Mughal army, and completely defeated them, was so depleted in resources and energy and so on that when the British took him on in 1815, Baji Rao too lost the battle, and that's how the British started increasing their hold on India. Had the British not come, Marathas would have restored what we call as the Hindu Rashtra or Hindustan, and because they had already unfurled their flag in Red Fort. So consequently, it was because of the fact that the British were able to defeat the Marathas in 1815 that we came under British control, and then ultimately British rule through Queen Victoria in 1857 and after defeat of Rani Jhansi. And at that time, it was noticed that Rani Jhansi and others in other parts of India were supported entirely by agriculturists. They provided the men to fight. They provided the resources. Because during the Mughal rule, they robbed our diamonds and jewels and gold and all that. But they did not touch agriculture because they were not interested in getting loot of rice and wheat and so on, which they were enjoying to their belly full. Now, therefore, that agriculture, which was prosperous thousands of years, continued to be prosperous till after 1857. And what the 1857 the British did was set up all criminals as zamindars and told them collect as much resources you want from the agriculturists. Because these people revolted against us, we have to teach them a lesson. But give a portion of it to us for running the British administration. So, and the British also empowered these criminal turned zamindars to not only extract as much as they wanted, but if they were not able to pay, then to take over their land and perhaps then make them into tenants. That's how the zamindari system, land system came. Or take away the jewels of his wife, if not, take over his brother's property. This way the impoverishment of the agriculture continued and continued, except in a place like Punjab, because the Sikhs had a terrible war with the British and defeated them. Then the British got the better of them, and ultimately they made a treaty. So they did not intervene. The British also did not intervene in those Maharajas who capitulated, who agreed to accept British regents. For instance, Mysore, and like that in various parts where the Rajas, like Madhya Pradesh, the Sindhyas and so on. So those places of India which were directly ruled by the British, which was about 2/3, there they introduced the zamindari system and bled agriculture as much as they could, and the agriculture kept on declining. So in 1947, it was completely bereft of resources and was fully poverty-ridden. That was the time when Sardar Patel and Gandhi said that our first priority in development should be agriculture. But Jawaharlal Nehru said, no, we must industrialize. I've been to Soviet Union and I've found how much industrialization they have done, and therefore we will adopt the Soviet model. The Soviet model was extract resources from agriculture and use it for industrialization. And it worked in the Soviet Union because before Stalin could take over, or Lenin could take over, and then Stalin could take over, the czars of Russia had already developed agriculture to a bloom. And so resources could be extracted. Here the agriculture was down to the bone and nothing could be extracted. So the Nehru years, which is from 1947 to 1964, those 17 years, every effort was made by Jawaharlal Nehru to finish off the agriculturalists as a force. So he brought in land reform. Of course, due to the freedom movement, we had decided that if we get freedom, zamindari will be abolished. So zamindari was abolished. But then after that, these lands were cut up, and in the name of land reform, and they became economically unviable. And so from 1947 to 1967, agriculture was hardly growing. And in 1966, we were hit by a terrible drought, and the whole country was on the verge of starvation. But the Americans came to help with their PL 480 grain and saved us. But it was a humiliating experience. And by then, after Jawaharlal Nehru had passed away, Lal Bahadur Shastri came. So the first thing he did was convene some experts in agriculture. He brought in C. Subramanian from Tamil Nadu and made him agriculture minister. M.S. Swaminathan was the head of the Indian Institute of Agricultural Research, and 3-4 people like that. I contacted the United States Food Research Institute and the Philippines Rice Research Institute, and got new seeds. And then they contacted Lal Bahadur Shastri through this committee, contacted the well-to-do farmers and said, we'll give you assured water, we'll give you assured seed, new seeds, and pesticides, fertilizer, all this. And so the 10% of Indian farmers produce enough to become self-reliant by 1975. So after 1975, we have not been importing food grains from abroad. We have been self-sufficient, and that's just because that 10% change. But after that, no further reforms took place, and agriculture has been recognized. Charan Singh fought very fiercely. If it weren't for Charan Singh, Jawaharlal Nehru would have made us into a collective. The Soviet and Chinese had communes like that. He would have done that for India also. But Charan Singh put up a very brave fight, and Nehru had to back down. And that's how we didn't have collectivization of nationalization of land. Mrs. Gandhi tried first to nationalize wholesale trade so that the farmers would then become dependent on you. But the wholesale trade is run by crores and crores of Indians, traders, who work on a very thin margin, and she could not replace them. And ultimately, she took it over in 73, and in 74 she apologized and returned, denationalized the takeover of the wholesale trade. But agriculture did not have any development all these years. It has been crawling at a low rate of 2%, 3%, when the country needed at least for agriculture to go to 8-9%. The first change that has taken place in agriculture, I would say, is this BJP government of Narendra Modi. This is the first time we have had a major reform. And the reform is in 3 parts. So far, what was being done, which we carried over from the Congress rule, is that agriculturalists could bring their grain to a fixed mandi, and if they sell there, they will be guaranteed a minimum support price. If they got more than a minimum support price from the buyers, then of course no problem. But just because they produce a bumper crop, they need not worry, they would get a minimum support price from the government. And this was controlled by a government body called APMC, I think Agricultural Produce Marketing Corporation or something like that. And they would, and the villages were designated. You can go only to this particular mandi and not to another mandi. So what happened is that many politicians began to become warlords or landlords in a different, if you want to use a different term, and use this to extract resources, because they would make the farmer accept a low price just above the minimum support price, which itself was very low, and then sell it at a high price. So these were privileged few. And what our government has done is bring in a law which says you don't have to go to a designated mandi. We will create more new mandis, you can go there. And there's no one who can dictate to you who you have to sell. So this is the first act that we have passed, which is a major relief for the farmers. The places where there are agitations today are where a powerful politician is upset that he is now, his hold on the agricultural produce is going to be diluted because they have alternatives. They did a propaganda, there will be no minimum support price. Of course, the government said, where we said we are removing minimum support price. Any mandi, you go and we will build those mandis, and people can freely come there to buy from you. You can freely go there to buy, to sell. And if you got a price below your the minimum that you need, we will provide you, continue to provide you minimum support price. So that propaganda is bogus. So this is the first thing that has been done. The mandis have now become going to be numerous, and it will be, and our government will build new roads so you can go fast and come back. And these places there'll be banks, they will give you loans. So I mean, it's a liberation of the farmer. He would no more be dependent on one place, and where the trader and the politician would have a nexus, and they would they will rig the prices. The second thing is, previously there was a law on hoarding. You can't just buy and keep it. Now we have made it, the second law we brought in, that if anyone buys above the minimum support price, then we will allow them to keep it in their godowns. Today it is the FCI which has anything that is in surplus, the FCI keeps. But FCI is running in huge losses. So we have allowed private players to come and buy, and after buying, they need not immediately sell. The hoarding penalty has been removed. And this, my opinion, is going to hurt the present intermediaries, the present traders, because now people from the cities with a lot of money are going to come, but the farmer will be the beneficiary because there will be competition, and they will buy more than they would normally buy because there is no ban on hoarding. The third thing is, farmers can enter into with anybody into a written contract approved by the government. That written contract, you see, they will imply that if the contract has a proviso that you will only grow rice, then the farmer will only grow rice, but there will be a commitment that he will buy all of it. So So it creates a great deal of security. And this will be not decided by the buyer, it will be by negotiation between the seller, that is the farmer, and the buyer, the person who has come to buy. So this will lead to a situation where farmers can try new crops, bigger crops, triple cropping, double cropping. In our country, we have 120 million hectares irrigated, and we got a huge land. China has more geographical area than India, but its arable land is the same as India. And India is, in China, the largest in the world. Of course, the United States is much up, but they don't cultivate in most of the areas. So therefore, this system of contract is going to bring money from the cities as an enterprise, but it all has to be a written contract. And there's also a provision to educate the farmer with internet and how he can find out what is the price prevailing in some faraway areas and how to reach it and so on. So there will be an internet marketing system also which will be introduced. So these are the three things which I would say the biggest benefit of this reform is that the fragmentation that took place due to socialism after 1947, and where large landowners, to escape the land reform land ceiling, they put some of the land in the name of their dog, in the name of their horses, in the name of their motor car, and servant, all these things. And I've seen this personally myself, where this has happened in Tanjavur. So therefore, there was a split in the there was the largeness of the area where you could run a tractor, you could have irrigation, all these things which raised the productivity did not happen because it was not economic to do so. So that is going to go, because if the contract system works properly, then it will be possible for you to have 3-4 farmers entering together into a contract with a single buyer of the grain. So this would be a great defeat. It will be a reversal of that socialism that we had. The second benefit we'll get is that there is no compulsion to sell to the Food Corporation of India or be restricted to one mandi. So multiple mandis gives you ability to shop, and especially if you have learned computers and internet and so on, you will be able to shop around for that. And finally, the so-called illegalities, benami, all this will go. And we'll have now a much more transparent agricultural ownership. So I would say this has given farmers more choice. It has simplified everything. It has enabled urban people with funds to come in, but it will have to be supplemented with cold storages, small airports, which can, because one of the great advantages of Indian agriculture we have never used, our products are so cheap that you can export it abroad. Rice costs 6 times, the same basmati rice of the same quality in Japan costs 6 times what we sell here. It's a scandal that we are not able to send it to Japan, because Japan wants packaging, they want this thing, they want transparency of various kinds, but their farmers are not positioned to it. Wheat prices in the United States is 2.5 times that of India. Mangoes, fruits, flowers, milk in Europe is sold 6 times at the price that we have, and our Bos Indicus is in terms of health, it's a much superior milk. So all these developments, if they are followed through, we are sitting on the edge of an agricultural revolution, and something nobody has done, and it's been long overdue. And I am pleased because I've been arguing exactly these things in my books, in my writings, in my speeches, and you people sitting here as moderators all have heard it so many times that you must be, you know it by heart. So I would say, let us welcome these three and the essential that Essential Commodities Act has also been modified. That is the third one. That is the part which enables you to contract, because essential commodities put some restrictions on what you do with your produce. Now those restrictions are gone. So I think these three acts together, I would call it the first major step of the BJP government led by Narendra Modi in economic reform. So this is as far as these things, and I don't think there's any reservation. Yes, they say that you shouldn't have rushed it through and so on. But this is not new. You know, the Congress party is the biggest hypocrite. In every manifesto, they have mentioned these are things that should be done. But they never did it because they're all earning out of this. There is a leader in Maharashtra whose name I can't take. It's not fair because he's not here to defend himself. But these APMCs and this fixed mandis, these have been these Maharashtra farmers have suffered enormously. That's why you have so many suicides in Maharashtra compared to other states. So all this will go, and I think the question of putting it through a standing committee and going through it, well, it could have been done, but I think in any case, even there, the filibustering would have gone on by the Congress. So it's just as well we took a chance, but we had the majority. There are parties which supported us. Surprisingly, Mulayam Singh's party supported us. There are other parties which supported us. So we had majority in both houses, and all that has happened is some hangama has taken place and some ugly incidents have taken place. But I think we have taken the right step, and at least as far as I'm concerned, as a critic of the economic policies of the government, I think this reform is something that gets my 100% support.
Dr. Swamy, some of our viewers would like to know, although you have explained indirectly, whether these acts will increase the annual income or the, I would say income of the poor farmers.
Any farmer goes to the market is free to bargain with multiple sellers. So he can choose, especially after once he's internet trained, he can choose that mandi to go to. And yes, in the beginning there will be a lot of things to be rectified, and you have to learn by experience. But in my opinion, definitely he will earn at least, according to my calculation, 1.5 times to what he's been earning so far.
In fact, we at VHS are proud because you have been campaigning, and in fact, today is the 76th episode, but in few other episodes, you have already said in the past that if the farmer had the ability and the capacity to access the internet for his selling of his goods, then he'll get a better price for his produce. So we are extremely happy that what ideas you have been saying is being implemented now.
Yeah, without consulting me, of course. But as long as you implement my ideas with or without consulting, it's fine. But let me give you another aspect. We only grow more than one crop in 25% of the land. Our country can grow 3 crops a year because we don't have the snowfall problem. And if we do, we can triple our production with no new investment in capital equipment. So these are the things where the farmer has to be empowered, and he has to be, he has to get seeds, pesticides, fertilizers, electricity guarantee. I asked once a farmer, what would you like as far as electricity is concerned? Because he was complaining, electricity keeps going and coming, and sometimes there's so much fluctuation that my pump gets blown up. So they said, one is that the voltage should not vary much. That's easy to do. Two, that for at least 8 hours a day, there should be no breakdown. Once it comes, for 8 hours, it should run without a cut in the electricity. So those are things to do. These are the things we have to start doing in micromanaging, and that will make the difference.
Dr. Swamy, I think we have technical problems of Arvind joining, but let us go to the next topic. Have you, Ramesh, any questions?
Well, first of all, farmers' income can increase if the buyer's demand increases, because the more the farmer produces and the demand remains the same, his income is not going to increase because the prices will come down. So we have to ensure that the farmer's product reaches every corner of India. If you look at the price differentials in India, essentially it is because where there is a deficit, grains don't reach, and where there's a glut, there it is being sold more than any other place, which brings down the prices. So farmers' income can go up no time tomorrow if you can ensure marketing which is price sensitive, and that is why this mandi liberation is one of them. The other is the knowledge that they must get from the computer, and today's farmers' children are all computer savvy, and find out where is the best price you're going to get. Only thing that matters for raising income of a farmer is the price at which he sells. And if you can see that he gets a good price, not minimum support price, that is only to prevent you from starvation, but a good price and an expectation that the price will continue to rise in small amounts every year. As incomes rise, the relative price will be smaller, but in absolute terms, in nominal terms, it may get higher. If you manage to see that the farmer got the best deal, his income will automatically rise.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. Now we will switch to our next topic, the importance of Maldives in our neighborhood. Dr. Swamy, because you have been always talking about improvement of relations with our neighborhood countries, especially Sri Lanka and Maldives and other parts, and you've been campaigning. So could you tell our viewers the importance of Maldives?
Maldives is a series of islands, all very scenic. I think one of these days, the present ruling party president and Speaker of the House is Nasheed. I think Nasheed. I think Jagdish was there when he came to see me in Colombo, when he was thrown out by a coup. Now by the elections he's back, and it's a very beautiful scenic spot, and I haven't been there myself, but I have followed that island's progress very closely. It's in the Indian Ocean. It is near India, closer to Trivandrum than any other, or maybe Kanyakumari, than any other place in India. And they have now a government which would like very good relations with India, and I hope our diplomats don't spoil it. It got independence from the British in 1966. And I came to know Maldives in a personal way when one day I got a call from Rajiv Gandhi was Prime Minister in 1988. And he asked me whether I could see him because Parliament was in session. He said, if you can come and see me in my office in Parliament, I want to have a discussion with you. So I went to see him, and he told me that, just now what has happened is a branch of the Tamil militants, it was called a plot, PLOTE, People's Liberation of Tamil Eelam or something like that, plot. They had sent about 50 terrorists across clandestinely to Maldives and were almost on the verge of taking over the government because of their ability to create arson and explosions and so on. And what is your view? He asked me, what do you think we should do? So I said, well, it's just next door. Just fly your Air Force there with our Jawans in it. And what is plot? There's nothing. These poor island people, they don't have an army, they have no training in weapons, nothing. So you go and defend them. So that time Abdul Gayam was the name of the man who was the deposed. He literally had almost been deposed president of Maldives. So we flew planes there and dropped our Jawans by parachute, and in no time we finished off that plot completely. The plot and the plot, both. So they were extremely grateful. So after Gayoom resumed his position as president, he came to Delhi, and Rajiv Gandhi held a dinner for a few of us, I think 4 or 5 of us, and he was there when I was also invited. And so we discussed this, that we should now build more permanent relationships so that this kind of thing doesn't happen in the future. But then Rajiv Gandhi lost the election and in '89, and that was the end. And so after that, I forgot about Maldives, they forgot about me. And then it turned out that, I think in 2015, or thereabouts, there was a coup, and a pro-Chinese government was formed, where after Nasheed was thrown out, and he escaped, and he was living partly in London, partly in Lanka, like that. And so it became a government which is hostile to India. And the Americans were sympathetic to these people who are overthrown. And so what happened is enormous pressure was put to hold fresh elections. And I will have to record, this is unusual, I think it doesn't happen, I mean, it's not expected of the Chinese, but the Chinese supported a free and fair election. And probably they thought they would win, like Indira Gandhi in 1977, I don't know, but they did support. And the United States, the United Nations, everybody ensured that there'd be a free and fair election. And Nasheed, who met me in Colombo in, I think, 2015 end or something like that, he couldn't go back because there was a warrant in his name, but his party won. And he arrived back, and his confidant became the president of Maldives, and since then they have been friendly to us. I had, when the previous coup, the government which came by coup, was making noises about giving the Chinese practically everything in the Maldives and make it into a kind of a base for China. I had taken a stand which was criticized, but now in retrospect it turns out to be the best thing I could have said. And that is, I said, India should send 4 destroyers and plane loads of people and depose this government, because it's an illegal government anyway. Elections are only declared after that. And so that threat was taken seriously by the Maldivians. It may not have been taken seriously in India, at least not our English language papers, but it was taken very seriously and the ambassador was forced to give us, Indian ambassador was forced to give a statement against me, which he must have regretted, because the first thing that happened afterwards was that he was sent home. So that remark made a difference, that when the elections were declared, it was held in a free, fair way, and Nasheed's party swept. And so he's in power. But I found that recently there were a lot of instances where our bureaucracy, which had ruined our relations with Sri Lanka, till I was able to persuade Rajapaksa to come to Delhi and address a meeting and remove whatever doubts have been created, and which he did in a fantastically clear way. And that's how our relation. Then I also arranged for him to meet Narendra Modi, and they had a 1.5-hour discussion. And all doubts were removed. And today Sri Lanka is our strongest friend. I mean, no one has been so categorical as to say that in all matters of foreign policy, India will come first, because it's our neighbor and we have cultural links with India. So Rajapaksa has openly said that, and I hope our bureaucrats will behave and not create the same kind of problem that they created last time to get him defeated. This time he has been not only elected, but he has been elected with a lot of Tamil votes for the first time. So the same way here too, Nasheed is the key figure. He is the charismatic figure, and he should be invited regularly to India and made to address meetings. I myself have sent him a message that if he wants to come to India, because he wanted to have a meeting and he had this conveyed, but he couldn't make it to India. He was in London, he was going on the way back. He thought of stopping over in Delhi, but all this corona and so on might have scared him. So, but I think I would like to have him come and address a meeting so that people see Maldives as kind of, as in flesh and blood, so to speak. And that kind of awareness, instead of going to Switzerland and some faraway place for vacation, people should go to Maldives. It's a beautiful place to go, and particularly in winter. And I hope we VHS people can have our working committee meeting there or something like that. But I think now Maldives is secure. They have, since my statement that we are badly treating Nasheed, we should now treat him well. There have been a lot of good statements out of Maldives, and we have to make sure that Maldives, Sri Lanka, and any other country which wants to be friends, we must cultivate them. Where there is a question of incurable hatred for India, then it's a different matter. But even Nepal, for example, it's a misfire because of the fact that we had left Nepal to our bureaucrats who treated them very badly. It happened before in Congress time, and it is sort of more or less continuing. So I think we have to learn from the Sri Lankan and the Maldives lessons, and accordingly devise our relationship with our neighbors in such a way that they become and remain our friends. This is why I think speaking about Maldives is necessary. I would urge all our people who think of this coming next winter for a vacation, go instead of Paris and New York, go to Maldives and spend some time.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Thank you, Dr. Swamy, for giving us an insight into what's happening in Maldives. Uh, do you think the Chinese influence is likely to increase in Maldives in the coming months? And or what is your assessment of the issue?
No, no, I think it's doubtful because I think the Narendra Modi government has understood this because just now they're given $250 million for them to overcome the COVID issues, you see. And this is spontaneous. It is a tremendously sensible move. Uh, I mean, I don't want to use the media terms like masterstroke and all that, but it's a very good step. And the Maldivians have expressed themselves fully that they are most grateful, and they consider India as their brothers and sisters, that kind of thing. So as long as we do that, and I think once a year the PM should also visit Maldives. It's just maybe a day trip. We just go there, meet some people, have lunch or dinner, and come back. So I don't see China, because China is very far away, and we are neighbors, and they have had an experience, and I don't think they want to repeat it. India is the country they can rely on anytime there is an insurgency in Maldives, and for goods and export and import, India is a very convenient place for them. It has almost zero transportation cost.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy, for another interesting episode with and on a Virat Hindustan Sangam channel. As we all know, this was a postponed episode 76. We will be meeting next Sunday, that is on the 27th of September, for the 77th episode of our regular Sunday episode of Gyan Ganga Words of Wisdom at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. And I would request all our viewers to be tuned in. And I also thank our viewers for their continuous support for this program. So with this, I thank my co-host Ramesh Swamy and Arvind Chaturvedi, and the technical team led by Ashish, Rakesh, Tejas, Ishwar Iyer, Vishal Mehta, and Swaminathan for their technical support for this program, and our main guest, Dr. Swamy, for keeping us enlightened and giving us gyan on these programs on every episode.